giving you a voice,
making it loud our own way.
Welcome to the fun.
Want to be our boss? Visit our Patreon to pledge your support at patreon.com/funfrc. And for the month of September, all of our Patreons have a chance to win a Cooler Master MS-120 keyboard and mouse set.
So we're talking about 775 Pro drivetrains. There's been a lot of talk about 775 Pros recently, specifically about utilizing them for a drivetrain in a chief thread started by Brendan Simons from 5406, that's Celtex. He describes the process of 5406, their 8 775 Pro single-speed drivetrain this past season, and also an off-season project. In their off-season test, they drew 15 amps from each motor, and after stall testing for only 30 seconds, were having issues. So we're going to take the perspective in this discussion of debating viability for teams. What motor configurations have you had success with, and would either of you consider using a 775 Pro drivetrain? So Adam, we will start with you.
So I'll probably upset a bunch of people saying this because I was definitely really negative against 775 Pro drives on Chief, mostly to discourage people from doing it. But they're valid engineering-wise. They can survive. The battery sag and the wheel slip often are enough of a current limit to make it work. But the two main downsides for me are, there's just a big opportunity cost to them for really not that big of a gain. I think we're way out of the era in FRC where you can just make your drive a little better and now you're way better than other people. So you're putting more motors in drive, more controllers in drive, especially if you're a team in that middle pack where you might be doing a practice robot next year or not. Doing a 775 drive, that's hard to say fast, might tip you in the realm of like, oh, that's too much money to also do a practice robot. So it's just a huge amount of opportunity cost for incremental gain. And I think, it's kind of lazy arguing to say, well, what does 2BD4 do? But, they went the other direction, as did quite a few other teams this year of, 4 sims was the standard. They moved to 6 mini sims. In a good amount of that benefit is just there's more thermal mass. So you're more robust. 775s is kind of saying, hey, the battery sag is a limit. We could get away with less thermal mass. So let's do that. And then the second issue is, the kind of teams in that middle to lower tier that see these things, and often it's really just one kid that kind of runs the whole team, and they kind of run the team by Chief Delphi, and they go, here's the couple threads I found, so this is what we're doing to be good. Those teams often have a lot of basic, maintenance issues and that sort of thing, and you just don't have as much tolerance for failure with the 775 drive. If you have a motor unplugged, you're much closer to failure, and could lose half your drive. Then obviously, in a lot of events, you just die in one match and you're not getting picked. And that could be the season for some teams. Or, you see a lot of teams like, oh, this bolt was too long and it just barely touched our chain, so it was a little friction. You're going to have a much less tolerance to failure with that sort of thing. So they totally work. If 973 was kind of more in like our 2012 days of just doing all these crazy technical things because we thought that's what would make us better, we would definitely run them. But I think in the modern era of FRC, we'll do 4 sim or 6 mini sim every time.
Yeah, I think a lot of this just comes down to resource management. 775 Pro drive gives you some advantages. The main one is you're going to save some weight on motors in your drivetrain. I think that's the big one. And weight's just always a struggle for teams. The acceleration characteristics are nice, but so they are with 6 mini sims or with all the other different motor, not all the motor configurations, but it's similar and the such. But the PDP slots are a concern to me. But if you're a team, if you're a team who can spare the PDP slots, you're probably a team who shouldn't be doing. It's a weird sort of push-pull there, because you're not doing something super complex. But the need for current limiting, I think that everyone agrees that if you want to use a 775 Pro, you want to do some smart current limiting. That's an extra resource. That's work, that's code, and there's a lot of teams that can't do that well. And so I think I agree with you, Adam, in that there are some teams who definitely should not do a 775 Pro drive. And I worry about the teams who should not be doing it, who decide to do it based on bad information because they read something on Facebook or something that's like, oh, this is the greatest thing since, and that it's ignoring the resource gap. And a team like 5406 is a high resource team. They have really smart engineers. They have really great group of students, and they spent the time in the off season doing tests like this so they could figure that stuff out. So this sort of drivetrain totally makes sense for them. A team like 2451, who's kind of been known as one of the on the forefront of this. They always have been doing cutting edge stuff. If you think with their swerve drives and stuff. So it totally makes sense for them. But like a team who's been relying on, the kit fodder, like a simple COTS, gearbox from Andy Marker or X Pro, like this is kind of stepping up to that next level. So would I use a 775 Pro drive for a team I was on? I mean, it would just depend on the resources we had available. Maybe like there is advantages to be gained with the weight, but at the same time, for the most part, I agree that it's just like, just give me 6 mini sims, slap them on there, and then let me work on my mechanisms. Like I don't want to spend too much time early in the season working on Drivetrain unless there's a real reason to do it, like a paradigm shift, like the 2015 game, where there was total reasons to rethink why we do drivetrains the way we do, because there was no defense in that game. But for the most part, it's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna get into this. But what confuses me is like how uptight and upset people get about this. It's like, like the people who are saying like, hey, be cautious with 775 Pro drives, like that makes sense. Like you don't want teams to screw themselves for the season. But there's these teams who's like, there's a slander campaign, and like it's like my inalienable rights to have a 775 Pro drive are being violated. And like there's like 300 posts, like Facebook discussions by like these socially awkward kids, and it's just like, dude, just effing chill, man. Like, why does it inspire such weird passion? Like there's some people who are just like Jim Zondig's like, yeah, had a 775 Pro drive, it was great, we're gonna do it again. That's like a rational human response. But there's like other people, it's like, okay, this is not how normal people speak about things. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just like how I hate the internet and like Reddit and 4chan and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a similar place. I mean, Curly, you were talking about like the team who, they use a lot of COTS. We're sort of like a step up from that, but not quite far enough. Where like we went to 6 mini sims this past year, and it was a huge event. Like it worked well for us. We could spread the load over 6 breakers. It was good. We're probably not going to go 775 pros for a couple reasons, because one, we don't really need the weight savings, kind of. And two, like you're talking about, all of that code and all of that making sure you don't blow it out is a huge resource. That's not something we have a ton of access to. Our weakness is code, absolutely. So it's technically a good idea, but maybe not the right fit for us, because we can find other ways to improve. But I think there are definitely teams out there who are on that edge, and I hope that they don't see this like crazy vitriolic chief post about anti-775 or that it's like, oh, this is where I need to go. I think it's definitely one of those things where we talk about making sure something is the right fit for your team, but taking advice from people who have done it well is always a good piece.
One thing I just want to clarify, we just keep talking about 775 Pro, 775 Pro. Like it's the exact same with the red line motor, which they're like, virtually
that type of motor.
Yeah, exactly. That form factor, that power, that sort of deal there. So it's like the same, put a red motor in, put a shiny silver motor in. It's the same sort of difference. A comment from chat from Holazola 5818. Lots of pneumatics equals spare PDP slots. That's true. That is one way to get around it. But I mean, I don't know. I know on 1114 last year, we were coming up on that PDP limit, because we were just doing multiple motors in so many areas where it was just like, yeah, let's throw extra motors on an elevator and throw extra motors on this. And like, that's a luxury that I like to have. And I don't necessarily want to have to give that up for like our elevator was like, it was decently fast. And it's like, hey, sorry. Oh, okay. I'm making weird noises. But, you throw a couple extra motors on there. It's like, that's an incremental gain compared to what you may be gaining by going 8775 pros instead of 4 sims.
Yeah, and I think there's just never enough appreciation in first for opportunity cost. So many people want to justify the decisions they made, look back, oh, we made our own drivetrain, it worked, therefore it was a good decision. Because it's so difficult for them to look back and go, well, if we had done a get apart drive, we could have been that much farther ahead on the intake or that sort of thing. I mean, if you look at the history of 973, I think it's a lesson in opportunity cost. We made a lot of bad decisions in terms of striving for technical excellence that would hurt us competitively. So I'm just big on stress and opportunity cost to people.